Welcome back to the number one podcast in the BVI, guys. I just want to give a quick shout out to today's guests, Wolfpack Entertainment, which is the team behind Killa Tooma. We had a great discussion. This podcast was very informative, diving deep into things that you probably might not have ever heard before, like beefs, for example. I'm pretty sure that's something that hasn't been talked about very much. But we go into that stuff on this podcast, and we also talk about his upcoming album and how the friendship dynamic works between what is a trio of Wolfpack and what they all have in store for each other next. And it's a lot of exciting stuff. Um, Before we roll the intro, I just want to talk about today's sponsor really quick, and that is Digicel. Digicel has just launched some really crazy, awesome specials. If you want the latest iPhone 12, you can get that from Digicel for as little as $75 a month. Literally, $75 a month for the latest iPhone, the iPhone 12. All you have to do is sign up for a plan when you switch from one of the other carriers over to Digicel and ask them how to get that iPhone and set that up. It's pretty simple and straightforward. And don't forget that if you switch from one of the other carriers over to Digicel, your first month is free. That includes your phone plan, your Wi-Fi plan, all that stuff. Welcome to the Too Inquisitive podcast.
You're too inquisitive.
All right, so thank you guys for being here. And this
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us.
on this episode of the podcast, I have the Wolfpack Entertainment team, the team behind Killa Tooma and all the wonderful music that he's been putting out. They came to talk to us today about the new release, the new album. You guys have a date yet? Or I know you said April, but I don't think you guys set an actual date.
Let me ask you this: when this podcast coming out?
Probably tomorrow. So either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna hold the date just because we're gonna reveal it later this week.
Okay.
That's what we'll say. We'll reveal it later this week.
Okay. I asked because I see on Twitter.
But we'll tell you off record though.
Say this. I see on Twitter you have all your followers them trying scrutinize how I forgot in the album Hold Up.
Yeah, man. I trying to block it out a little bit, because sometimes that pressure from the outside, they make you make decisions you wish you don't make, you know what I mean? So we just try and stick to the course we got, and then we'll get there eventually,
Fair enough. I mean, what to me is a good sign because that just show me that people really looking forward to the new project.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's been 3 years. I mean, that's rightfully so.
It's really been.
So I appreciate, I appreciate the hype and stuff, but sometimes they go over, but I love it at the same time.
Okay, so the first question I wanted to ask you guys is, I noticed right off the back on the last album, you guys only had, I think it was one song with a feature, but on this new album, you have an all-star cast of features. You got a man like Priceless and Banco and Timo and Pressure and Ayaz, and the list goes on. What was like the decision making and deciding to go from almost a J. Cole vibe to no features to now you decide to bring on all these other people?
Well, my initial thinking for that was because it was my first quote unquote studio album. I wanted it to be at least 95% me. Mm-hmm. So I could, lay my foot in and lay the listeners and the potential listeners know who I am as an artist. And I think we got that done with the third pillar. So this time around, I just wanted to celebrate the artists around me, the artists I look up to. I firmly believe at some point, hopefully sooner than later, the Virgin Islands as a whole is going to blow up on the music front. You know what I'm saying? So I just trying to give these people the flowers now and just celebrate talent because they have so much talent around the Virgin Islands, British and USA that is, you know what I'm saying, is unbelievable.
Okay, I get that. That's it's really interesting to me because I I like the way how Virgin Islands music is going, but at the same time I feel like I don't know, like I'm more of a fan of like an old school style of flow, or like the flow like what you have compared to like this new rap, what it says like mumble rapping and that kind of stuff. So
Right.
a lot of what I notice is a lot of Virgin Islanders, they either completely for it or they completely against it, and they don't really seem to have an in between. So is this new album like what's the style of music? Is it more similar to what you had on the last album, or have you kind of moved towards like a mainstream style? Like have you switched up anything differently overall, or like, you know?
No, I wouldn't say that, not necessarily. The most I could say that change is you could hear the growth in the music as far as content, as far as, you know what I'm saying, what he's saying lyrically and stuff like that. But from the beginning and till now and forever, I just being who I is, you know what I mean? I'm not one to feel pressure or feel any kind of way about different styles of rap or different styles of music that's popular in the moment. I just go off of how I feel in the moment and be myself. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way, in my opinion, to be recognized just by being different. You know what I'm saying? So I know I have the party kind of records, which I could do, which we do have as well. I have the street records, you know what I mean? It's a mixture of everything, but everything is in context at the same time, you know what I mean? So if I talking about the street hair, maybe later on I'll tell you what might come with the street. You know what I mean? So it's like a cause and effect thing I don't really do on most of my albums.
Okay, and like the last album, it seemed to like every song seemed to continue the story you were telling, right? Does this album have like a general story also?
100%.
Okay,
That's like our thing. Whenever we say we come in with an album, expect it to have that storyline or that basic premise that we following. Like it's never a bunch of songs we just throw together. And that's part of the reason why it could get lengthy at times because it's such intricate details and paying attention to certain things along the way. And then in the end, trying to put it together like a puzzle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's always a storyline behind it regardless and a meaning, you know?
So what's the writing process and the production process behind doing an album like that? Like, do you write the songs in order, or like you write a song now and then you write a song later and then you kind of piece together the order in the sense that they make, or how does that work out?
Right. So, right, the latter. So, what you say about just making the songs here and there, that just happened to be my style. I've never written an album like from inception, from track one to whatever the last track is. So it's like it goes and it comes. It depends on how I'm feeling. But the crazy part about that whole thing is it may take me 2 years to write an album, right? But at the same time, it's like I writing a song in between months. I might write one at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year. But at the end of the whole process, everything just seemed to relate to each other in some way. Like we laugh about it all the time. Like, how this even possible? We didn't think initially that this way it should be, but that's just how it became. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beauty about it.
Fair enough. So how do you know when the album is done? Because this new album have in terms of numbers, they have more tracks than what the last album had. So how do you know like this is enough, or how do you know when it's done?
That's a great question. Like when you ask it, I sure all of us will giggle into ourselves because that's like one of our dilemmas we the face on a constant basis. It ain't just for the end of the album, but we so into the small details and making sure everything on point and matching our initial vision that at times we could lose ourselves, we could lose track of time. We just trying to hit perfect but forgetting that, you know what I'm saying? So we've been trying to strike that balance for the longest while. But it's a feeling. To answer your question directly, you to just get a feeling like, yeah, this is it right here. You know what I'm saying? And it is unmistakable. It's just a feeling you get when you know that it's time. You know what I mean? And then whatever ideas you came up with, if it was it would stick with you until the next one. You check?
Yeah. Okay, so what do you guys have planned for the rollout of the album? Like, I plan on coming home and doing like some album listening parties or a concert to promote it, or I have anything in mind? I mean, I know things a little hard because of COVID and what's not, but
Right. Well, again, one of my colleagues jump in there.
What else? I mean, obviously, it's been tough because, we've been wanting to put this thing out. Now, obviously, our perfectionist vibe and just our natural obsession with making sure it's perfect has held us back also. But there's also been COVID to consider because, how we roll out the third pillar, of course, we would have liked to do that, of course, elevated and on steroids. But, just signs of the times and us just having to, pivot and just, do things the new way. We figuring out how we could do some digital things, how we could do some virtual things, and at some point we're going to touch home. That's always the plan. We're going to touch home.
Definitely.
But one of the things that we've been talking about too is as much as we love home and as important as home is, we want to touch the region, we want to touch the world. So, also looking into, how do we get to those different places and making sure we touch those different places and get the music to more ears, people who maybe never heard of what we do, never heard of Wolfpack, never heard of Killa Tooma. But our plan is to touch home. We don't know when, I guess how things go in the next couple of months with home reopening fully and all of that going to determine some of that. But just know that when we touch home, we don't just think that way. So it can definitely be a movie because this has been years in the making, literally. So we already have certain plans, certain things that we have started to point in motion that we just kind of have to pick back up and just execute. So, it's going to be a fun summer. That's what I'll say. It'll be a fun summer. We have visuals that we want to do at home. Like we have visuals that we literally don't want to touch until we come home. It's because it have to be that type. It just have to be. We just have to be there. So, yeah.
fair enough. Well, if I want to come through to Anigada and shoot something, I know a good cameraman. Just saying, just point that out there into the universe.
Yeah. Over it's beautiful enough. I've been over there about 5 times, probably 6 times. It just my speed. I mean, not for all the time. I ain't gonna lie to you, but like how I so low key and chill. You know what I'm saying? And just like to enjoy the environment. Anigada is like the number one location for that to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. One day we might have to come over there and like set up a studio rig or something.
Yeah, check and just
record like just make records over there. Yeah, like for a week. You know what I mean? They ain't bring vibes for it.
Well, if I want to make that happen,
I don't think I've ever been to. Sorry, I was saying I don't think I've ever been to Anigada, to be honest. Like if I have, it's been probably once, like years ago. So I mean, I definitely want to visit because, as I said, I don't believe I've ever been there, and that's terrible. I got to change that.
Yeah, you definitely.
You got to change that.
You definitely got to come true. Right now, we got some more stuff too. I know I probably never been here in a few years, so we got stuff like horseback riding and thing now. You have the Conch Shell Mountain
Okay.
Falls. We could go see Conch Island, which is huge. I mean, I could show you pictures, but to be honest, the pictures don't really do it no justice. It's something that you really need to see in
Yeah.
person to grasp, like, the full extent of what it is.
Yeah.
It got a few more things to do, but it still has that essence of it's a chill, quiet, laid back place where
Right.
you could probably
Right.
drive
Right.
the whole island and don't see no other cars, like no traffic at all.
Yeah. Unless it's Lobster Fest.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's probably the only time when over here a little hectic. Like Lobster Fest kind of transforms the
Yeah.
island into a whole completely different experience. I always tell people that when you visit
Right,
Niagara, you need to come twice. Once for Lobster Fest and then one time any other time during the year, and it's like completely two different places.
Yeah, I agree with that. You get a full scope of how it would be. You know what I mean? And then, but that's my vibe, man. That's just my vibe. That's how I is as a person. Just to be laid back and cool and not have to deal with a lot of people sometimes. It's just, you know what I mean?
Okay, so next question. I think I asked Dante about this before on the previous podcast that me and him did. But I know you guys had the radio station at a point in time. You guys have any plans to bring that back?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think part of the challenge is because as Dante and Shokoy already shared, because we're all perfectionists and because we're all not in a place yet to where we can do this 100% full time. It's a lot that falls on each of our shoulders, to where our dreams are sometimes a little bit bigger than where we're at in the process, So I think that's something that, we love to do, because again, this is, Pulse VI is something that, was near and dear to all of our hearts, So that's something that, admittedly hasn't been in the forefront, of our mind just because we've been in album mode and we've been so, gazelle intense on that. But I think, once we're able to get this through to the promotional stage, I think that'll open up a lot more time for us to start, looking at things like that and other things that we want to do with, within the realm of, Wolfpack. So that's something that is still there, and it's just about having that time and making that time to, put that thought back into it.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add, and I ain't gonna speak on this too much because I know we already spoke on it on the episode that I did with you, but for the most part, this is the team right here. So it's three of us. Like, we have subcontractors that we work with. Shout out to Kyra, Jay. Shout out to Kwame. Shout out to Christopher Kusun. You know what I'm saying? We got some great subcontractors that we work with.
Yeah,
but this is Wolfpack.
All three are very great artists, by the way. Just want to shout them out.
Yeah, dope. Like, one dope people to work with. But this is Wolfpack. You know what I'm saying? Like, the three of us. So, a lot of times, to Mike's point, like, we could just bite off more than we could chew. And with Pulse, as good as it was, I don't know that it was the right time for us, to really fully do that. So, we're going to revisit, of course. We're going to revisit, of course,
Vision Build Kingdom.
And just see how we could do it the right way and a sustainable way, once we out of this album cycle. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a graphic designer myself, right? And when I saw the artwork for the album Vision Builds Kingdoms, like I was like speechless at first. Like I couldn't even find words to like express. Like I kind of just had to like just take a moment and like take in the artwork. What I got from it was, you were reflecting on your past self to where you are now, like to simplify it. That's pretty much what I got from it. So I want to know from you guys, what was the inspiration behind the artwork, first of all, and then also the naming the album Vision Builds Kingdoms.
Okay, so I would start with the name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I started to write the album um, the day after, either the day of or the day after Oma. I was one of the fortunate ones to keep my roof. So
Okay.
I was able to write.
So wait, you were
And
in Tola for Alma?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like I moved to the States shortly after Oma, actually. I was planning to, but Oma just like accelerate the process.
Okay.
But what I was talking about is like at the time I just couldn't see how we could move on from that point. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And as the days go by and the days go by, I would start to see things getting clean up and you know what I'm saying? Like ain't look how we were supposed to look for a while, but I just saying as the days go by I was seeing a difference. And it dawned on me that, you know what I'm saying, you gotta have that vision. Even in the moment if you don't see that you can move on with time, you know what I'm saying, with perseverance,
Mm-hmm.
you can get to wherever you want to be, or you can move on from the sunken place you probably in. Like you have so much different scenarios where this could, you know what I'm saying, play a part in it. Right?
I
And
feel
as
you.
far as the album cover, it basically depicting that same premise. You hit the nail on the head. It's like I reflecting on my past self and how far I've come or how far we come, or for the person who looking at the art to think about that within themselves. That's what I wanted to provoke. You know what I'm saying? Vision builds kingdoms. You get a vision, you know what I'm saying? You work hard, which is the build part, and you can get to the kingdom. Whether it could be as small as I can hustle for this couple 3 months because I really want a chain or I want a pen for my chain. It could go up to I walk in a kitchen red. I want to hustle to get his car. You know what I'm saying? That's your kingdom. But then after you get out there, you motivated to get more and get more and get more. You check?
Mm-hmm.
So it don't necessarily mean nothing physical like a physical kingdom, but it's like getting to where you want to be in life, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I feel I think the whole idea already sounds good, and I can't wait to hear the story. To be honest, I've been like from time you brought out the first album, like I'm the type of person that I go back and I listen over and over because I mean your first impression will always be good with a body of work like that, but you have to go back to try and catch the little details that you might have missed out. I mean, to this day, like I listen to albums that came out 10 years ago, and then when I'm paying attention, I hear something that I miss and be like, oh, wow, how did I never catch that? So, like, when you go back and you
Right,
get
right.
to
Yeah.
really appreciate what the third pillar was, I always tell people, like, if you had that international audience, then like that album could have been like critically acclaimed. Like that album like deserve a Grammy for sure.
Wow, I appreciate that.
I like
I appreciate that.
I would even when I went to Barbados the last time, I would like let my cousins and stuff listen to it and they would want to know who that is. They would never assume that was somebody from the Virgin Islands, much less the Caribbean. Because normally when I play them music from the VI, they don't really understand what we trying to say. But when they listen to your album, like my cousin compare it to like a J. Cole, for example.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
yeah,
I mean, that's good to hear. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's always good to hear coming from elsewhere, even though sometimes we might think it as well,
mhm.
because this is exactly how we feel about Vision Based Kingdom. Like, we really wholeheartedly feel that this needs to get on an international level and win a Grammy. Exactly what you say is how we feel. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to hear that coming from the outside as well.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, okay. So I know that you guys like have all been friends and stuff, like growing up from like young, right? And I remember being a little
Right.
boy, and I remember like listening to your music back when you had to like Bluetooth songs to your phone, and your phone could only hold like 2 or 3 songs, and you had to every time you wanted a new song, you had to delete the old one to get a new one. And
Yeah.
I would go back to those songs and kind of listen in a type of order that I feel like if I could remember properly, like what song come out when, and I would like listen to the evolution of Killa Tooma, right? And one thing that I always realize is from early on, you always had a great premise when it came to lyrics. Like your lyrics always made sense. They were clever. They were witty. Like you had proper punchlines and everything. Even when I was small and I couldn't appreciate them, to know that I could kind of understand what you were saying and catch the metaphors and catch the punchlines. Like I want to know what, like, for you as a rapper, because I know you started when you're pretty young. What was your inspiration? How did you go about writing your songs? Um, like how did you get these like clever words out? Like if you could give me a little insight on that, like how it was for you starting, and then also if you could talk about your evolution from then till now.
Okay, that's a great question because not too long ago I was thinking about what it was exactly that led me towards um, trying to rap or writing or be interested in music, period, to be the artist. It had to be because I was a big fan of rap music.
Mhm.
Like that was the predominant thing I would listen to. And I just felt like I could do it. I don't know what got into me at that time. I think initially I was like 13 years old, but I was like 15 when the first time was like public, like I like go, if I am mistaken. I could have the ages wrong, but
Mm.
it was around that time when I realized that I could do it too. You know what I'm saying? I was always good at writing stories in class when I go to school or composition or whatever. And my teachers would let me know that like you could write, like you just will never finish your stories or your assignments. You check?
I had that same
So
problem in school.
I know I had it in me. Huh?
I had that same problem in school. When you get into that story, and you're
I'm telling you, like,
get good, and then you run out of time, and you even get to wrap up the
yeah,
story or nothing.
exactly. That time would be the freak. That time would be the freak. But yeah, so I realized like I'm good at writing. I'm not 100% sure where the wittiness came from, or like what you describe it with the punchlines and stuff. Like I don't think too hard on it. It's just something that has just come to me. Like it's so hard to explain. Like when I explain it to people, they will be looking at me like, huh? But it has just flow into me somehow. You know what I mean? Um, as far as now, it's basically the same thing, but naturally because I've gotten older, because I've read a lot of things, because I've done a lot of research, you know what I'm saying? And just being educated the official and the unofficial way. Just, you know what I'm saying? Researching stuff for myself. Naturally, I'm exposed to more subject matter. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I could introduce it into the music. You check? And that's like the basic explanation of how complex some things to get, but I could still make it to where you bobbing your head to it and you're really catching it till months later when you're chilling by yourself and you're like, oh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's basically how I evolved. And I'm interested to see how I can evolve from here as well.
What's your researching process like? Because I could tell from listening to the third pillar, the way you talk about the topics, that like what is the third pillar basically, the way how you describe it, and you list it, because people will talk about it all the time, but nobody could ever put it into the words that you did, and like break it down and explain it in a way that not only it makes sense, but it fit perfectly together in a song. So I'm curious about like what's your research method? Because like I'm a person that I like to learn, which is part of the reason why I started this podcast in the first place was, to ask questions and understand people more. But I
Right.
also all day, every day, I either on my phone, Googling something, reading articles, reading books, or I have a YouTube documentary playing. I love how Netflix have all these documentaries coming out now. Like I just put them on in the background and I
Right.
listen when I doing my work and what's not. So like how do you get your information? How do you go about getting it? What type of topics do you research?
Right. So it's so funny how you break it down about yourself
Mhm.
is like the same thing for me. Like the same thing. So and for me, I'm not sure if it's for you as well. It could be so random. So I might be watching a documentary about something totally different,
Mhm.
and one of the interviewees say something. I would stop that documentary if I'm interested in what it said, right? Stop that documentary and then go research what it says. While this one paused in the middle, just so I could figure out what he said before I could move on. So it'll be like a spider web of different directions I could be going. Like I had to try to explain it to Dan and Jacob is like we would like yesterday we were randomly talking about a little technical piece we need for doing something we planning or whatever. And I just so happen to have that same thing in my wish list on the website because they try to understand how I even know about that to have it saved prior to us talking. But that's because I researching so much things at one time that, you know what I'm saying, it'll just accumulate. You check?
Yeah.
And I guess that's how it seems like I a wizard at some point, you know what I mean?
I hadn't figured that you're probably heavy into documentaries just based on like a lot of the samples
Yeah,
that you had
yeah.
used on the third pillar. Because I recognize a lot of the samples from
Right,
documentaries like the Cocaine Cowboys and when they talk about
right, right.
the Island Boys and what's not. Because I had watched all those documentaries from like years before, and then like when I bring it up to other people outside of my little friend group who also into that kind of stuff, like nobody don't really know what you're talking about and stuff. So like I remember hearing the samples the first time on the
Yeah.
third pillar, be like, oh wow, like you actually have other people that into this, like it ain't just me.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy like that. Like all the samples usually, I ain't gonna say 100% of it. 'Cause I think Dan and Mike probably country. Well, Mike did a lot of the samples on Vision Based Kingdoms. You hear what I'm talking about, and their Oma. But as far as like stuff like that, it'll usually be me. And when I hear something I like, I just save the timestamp and just put it to the side for when I need it. You check?
I want to talk about your guys' friendship. Like, how long have all of you guys been friends? And when did you guys decide to come together to form Wolfpack?
So I mean, at this point, when well, I met Dante a little bit later on because Joquoy and I, well, all of us went to the same school, that's St. George's Secondary School. And Joquoy and I were in the same class from Form 1. So when was that, Joquoy? From 2004, I think?
Yeah, 2004, yeah.
Right? 2004, and then Dante, I think you came to St. George's. Was from 2005. 2005 too. Okay. So, and what's crazy about, or at least this is kind of from my perspective on everything. Joquoy and I, and so many other friends who are part of Wolfpack, kind of extended members like Shamal, Jermaine. I feel like, our friendships just kind of started there, so it wasn't until later on, I think, that each of us were in separate groups, which is pretty crazy. Joquoy, Vietnam soldiers, Dante, Vendom boys, and I was in church boys. So I feel like, all of that just kept building to the point where Joquoy and I were roommates in college. We moved up, and I think I would say for me, that's where our friendship kind of took to another level and kind of became a brotherhood, and then Dante and I went to the same school, Full Sail University. So he moved up a few months later. And again, our time in Orlando, I think, is what really helped form Wolfpack before we officially became Wolfpack. And I don't know if any, Jokoya Guns, I don't know if you guys want to kind of speak on that part of it a little bit.
Well, what I'll add is, like a lot of it was just destiny, I'm saying? Like, none of us had any prior conversations about like, yo, we're going to go to Orlando, we're going to meet up, I'm saying? Like, it just kind of happened that way. I happened to get an apartment that were like not even 5 minutes from Killa and JCav. And, so it just kind of happened really, really, really organically, where I remember certain days after school, like I would be on my bike. This is when I was still riding my bike. So this is like, I talking, 17, 18 years old, not even with a license yet. And I would stop by Killa after class, he dubbing up a pot. I fall asleep on his couch, I'm saying? Or we go by Mike, I say Mike on the phone caking all he days, so, just the whole process. And then Jermaine ended up moving to Orlando again, it just kind of work out that way. We meet Kiso, I saying, and the family just grow. We have people like Dishi, who is still like family, one of the people that we work with, people like Kyra, like, I saying, and we just build this friendship. And to fast forward the story, we end up watching, we used to go to movies all the time. We end up watching the movie The Hangover. We were like really, really just enjoying the movie, and we start comparing their group of friends to our group of friends, and they were calling their friendship the Wolfpack, their friend circle the Wolfpack, and we were like, yo, we like that, like the Wolfpack. Dance, you is this person, Killa, you is this person, JCav, you is this person, Jermaine, you is this person. And that was just like our thing, and then years later, because we've always talked about doing something like this because we want to affect the industry in a positive way and do things in a way that they haven't been done. Or maybe they've been done, but it hasn't been the majority, it's been the minority, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we were just like, let's do something different. Let's come together, and let's start this thing. And Wolfpack was the name that just made sense because it represented us. And this thing that we created, this energy that we created is a certain energy that I think that we carry, when we together, that I just can't really point towards. And, that's the essence of Wolfpack.
When groups are formed organically like that, especially when there's groups of friends, is when they turn out, to be the best, to be the most successful. Like to compare it, like I watch a lot of YouTubes, I'll compare it to like something that Mr. B said the other day. When people were asking about how to join their friend group. And he was like, it's simple, it's in the name. It's just, we just have to be friends. If we can't just sit down and chill out off camera, then, we can't really do nothing on camera either.
Exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
So for Wolfpack Entertainment, what's next after this album? Or have you guys not even thought about that yet? Because I know like, with releasing an album is so much work into it in terms of, the marketing and the promotions and what's not.
So for what's next, well, we and this is something because as a form of us growing, because again, that's one thing. Again, us being perfectionists is a gift and a curse, right? To where we always look at what did we do before and how can we do better? We try not to, we look at other people for inspiration, but we try and outdo ourselves, if that makes sense. So part of what we're definitely wanting to do more of for this project in itself is push it so much more, because the third pillar, I think we did okay in that time, but we really could have pushed that more, so a lot of our time and attention will be on pushing VBK, on trying to get that to as many people as possible. After that as well, because we do have a few artists that we work with who are, on the label also, Trav P, in particular, we're wanting to, put that much more time and effort, into him, because he's super dope. He's one of the artists on the label. We're working with another artist as well. So again, what we're wanting to do when we have more time to, kind of put in these different directions is continuing kind of building the label, and building some of the other ventures like we mentioned before, Pulse VI, so kind of building Wolfpack and growing that foundation outwards a little bit more, I would say, is what we're going to try and do after this album has come out.
Okay, that sounds good. You guys have
and what?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, and, we are very much students, so just learn and just continue to perfect the business, because we learn something new every day. I know people from the outside looking in might think that Wolfpack, we have it all together, we don't roll out stuff and we don't do stuff a certain way, which, I love that we have that perception, that people have that perception of us, but we still very much students. We still learning. So just perfecting the business and getting better, with our systems, with our processes and stuff like that. So that's the plan, we just continue to grow. And one thing that we have to do too, this is full disclosure, kind of, me pointing the mirror at us, is because we've been working on this project so long, we can't get tired of it. We can't get tired of it because we inherited it for so long. We have to make sure that we put in the time on the back end and continue pushing, just get the most out of our investment, because it's been our investment. Not even necessarily money, but our time, it's a huge time investment. So, yeah.
Okay, the next question I want to ask is the way how so much people, like how Thought Pillar became so popular home and so much people gravitated towards it. You when you go taller, you hear somebody pass by in a vehicle, they blasting Street Legends or, one of the songs off of the album. How did you guys expect it to do as well as it did? Or did the support and popularity come as a surprise?
I can be honest with you, we always expect, don't get it twisted. Before we put out anything, we always have this expectation of it, what I'm saying, blowing up and being the biggest thing. But what shocked me the most was after Alma and during that time period, it became like a refuge. You know what I'm saying? And that part of the whole thing is what means so much to me, because the album came out June 30th, 2017. So literally a month and not even 2 months later, Alma came on September 6th. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So during that whole time, people who get to salvage the CD or whatever and just stick intact with that album during that time, that's what touched me the most. You know what I mean? And as far as it being so supported, I appreciate it. That's the most I could say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would even just how you mentioned it after Alma for True, I could probably think a couple of times where I went to sleep listening to that album, in my apartment with no electricity, pitch black, nothing else to do, just on my phone, just blasting the album until I fall asleep.
Right. Yeah. That's the part where really...
It definitely became a comfort for sure.
Right. And that's why I want to provide, I make music for the listener. You know what I'm saying? I don't make music for myself. That I wouldn't say always, but definitely from the Thought Pillar and this one, the music been for the listener and not necessarily for me.
Mm-hmm. I got a random question I just think of, right? How all I get our nicknames?
So my father, his nickname is Don, right? So just D-O-N. So people will always call me Don growing up, Lil Don, and all that type of stuff. So I would always be like, all right, don't call me Don. I want to be my own person. I want to have my own identity. I would like, just call me Don. Just call me Don with a Z. So like some years back, I want to say this was like 5-6 years ago, maybe not that long, maybe a little bit shorter than that. I went in the studio with Mackenzie Baltimore. We were just recording. And one time on one take, he was like, hey, yo, Don, press play. And I was like, yo, that kind of dope, bro. I was like, that kind of dope. Like, I gonna keep that. So I keep that audio, and I had that just like throwing it in all of his songs that I would do with him, and it just kind of stick. So that's kind of where the name comes from. But people always call me Don, like all through high school. It was always like, I mean, I had a few nicknames, but I was like definitely one of them. And then the Don press play definitely came from Mackenzie Baltimore. Shout out Kenzie and his wifey Roseanne. So yeah, that's kind of my little story.
Fair enough. Next.
Joko, you want to go next?
Nah, you go. My story is that.
I got you. Okay, so for me, J Cav. So what's funny is that's my middle initial and the first part of my last name. So, and I'm trying to remember the true inception of that. I think as I was graduating college, I think that's just the engineer name I kind of started to take on. But what really helped cement that for me is actually working with Rakim Celeb, Press the Button. Me and Rakim, we worked very, very closely, for years. We were kind of like an engineering duo to where, we worked on a lot of music together over the years. And as, Press the Button started building, he actually, I got to attribute the creation of Turn Me Up J Cav is from him. It's kind of a similar story to Don's. I can't remember the song he did it on, but he just kind of came up with that. And, I put on the different effects and, on any of my songs that I mix, you usually hear, Turn Me Up J Cav. And, it's kind of been history from there. So, big shout out to Rakim. He actually, engineered a few of the features that are on VBK, so big shout out to him and, Press the Button and been
big up my dog, like good people.
Yeah.
Like definitely shout out Celeb,
For sure.
We definitely got some more plans, more things, more collaborations, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I gotta get you on the podcast soon too.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so my name now, this one is a long story, but I'm trying to make it short. So the Tooma part, right? When I was younger, I have like this bone condition in my left leg, and every time I used to play sports or whatever, just to get away from the physical contact, I would always be bawling, oh, I got a tumor in my leg. You know what I'm saying? Guy is like a bone, an extra bone basically growing out of a bone. It's in my left side.
Okay.
So, and later on, I come to realize it's not even a tumor. And that's the funny part of the story. But I always used to, younger when I used to be like, I got a tumor in my leg, ease up on me, don't, you know what I'm saying? Boom, boom, boom. And after a while, it was like a running joke, like, yeah, tumor, I see you. Yeah, that's tumor. You check? So I just run with the name. And as far as the killer part, Cameron from Dipset, you know what that is, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he had a moniker. Yeah, like Diplomat, Joel Santana, yeah, them dudes used to be popping back in the early 2000s. Yeah, so he had a moniker, which he called himself Killer Cam. And because that was one of my inspirations at the time, I just decided to take the Killer and then put it with a Tooma, and then it was Killa Tooma. You check? And it's been history ever since.
That's some actually. I got some interesting stories. Like it's kind of like in the BVI.
Yeah,
Everybody got a nickname. Nobody don't really go by their name. So like I always curious to hear
right, right,
how people get their names and stuff. When you were getting into rap and stuff, I think around the
right.
time when I first started listening to you heavy, like listening to you on a regular, like when I know like who Killa Tooma was around the time when you were beefing with Pup-D. God rest his soul, R.I.P. Pup-D. I just curious.
Right, right, definitely.
R.I.P. Pup-D Flocca.
Back in them days, like the beefs and stuff, I always say beefs bring out some of the best music, especially lyrically. And to this day, one of my favorite
Right.
songs is Reloaded. I just think like that's a lyrical masterpiece. Um, how did like those beefs start? Like them was like some serious beefs, or I was just doing it for the music, or and then how the beef gets squashed and all of that kind of stuff. And in your honest opinion,
Okay,
who
well,
had win the rap beef? In your
yeah.
honest opinion.
Well, I'll answer that directly. I think it was me that win that rap beef. But of course, I would say that, you know what I'm saying? But he definitely come hard as well. Like, I can't overshadow that. But to answer your other question, whether it was a real beef, no, it wasn't a real beef because me and Flocka never fight. We never get no problem, no physical problem, none of that. It's just that the both of us was the top rappers at the time, and naturally human beings like conflict. You know what I'm saying? For instance, like what they, do with Nicki and Cardi and whoever else is like automatic. You know what I'm saying? So that just what hype it up more and more and more. And as far as I concerned, it was just music. It's like, but we never really had no real altercation or nothing like that ever.
You ever had any beef with anybody else, or it was just that one?
Me and when we say beef, we're talking about music, right?
Yeah,
so
music.
Me and Bumpy, Bumpy, right?
Yeah,
definitely
of course,
Bumpy.
yeah.
That was one of the only. I think that was earlier than Flocka. That was the first one. Me and Bumpy used to be going back and forth. Mind you, this is the climate. I live 2 minutes from where Bumpy lives. You check? So think of that. And we're going back and forth. The hashes are this. It's like, but I mean, that was the spirit of the game back then. It was fun looking back on it. You know what I mean? But none of it was enough real nothing in the streets, you know?
If you could go back to when you were just starting off rap and tell yourself, some advice or something, what would you say to yourself?
Repeat that one more time.
If you could like go back in time and meet your 15-year-old self, because I think that's what you said you started rapping, right? Around 15. And give your 15-year-old self some advice, what would you say to yourself?
That's a dope question, man. Like, that's a loaded question. Like, I learned so much stuff the hard way since I was 15. Like, we'll be saying I'm talking all day. But what I would reiterate to my 15-year-old self is just be you. Be 100% you. Try your best, give it your all in whatever you're doing, and you're going to prevail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I would hope from there my 16-year-old self take that and apply it to everything. You know what I mean? They face it. Only if we could do that, right?
Mm-hmm. I ask that question because often I find myself, I like to reflect on my past selves, and I would look at my 18-year-old self and think about all the stuff I didn't know then that I know now. And then I would put I'd put myself in my 18-year-old self shoes and look at my 16-year-old self and then reflect on all the stuff that I knew at 18 that I didn't know at 16, but now I know so much more in my 20s and stuff like that. that interests me when I ask other people what they would tell their farmer self. 'Cause some people don't even think about it, to be honest.
Right, right. But that question pertains to me a lot because I like to like look back at myself and try to remember how I was feeling at that time and my thoughts on the wall at that time. You know what I mean? And how I would have do things different if I had the chance. So I do think of stuff like that on a constant basis as a matter of fact.
All right, so we're coming up to an hour. So even though I would love to keep talking to you, I don't want to make the interview too long because I would love for people to listen to
Right,
the
right.
whole thing. So I just want to give each one of you a chance to say something and wrap it up. If you want to put a plug, shout out the album, any information I want to give to the fans, anything, I can let them know now.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off and just, excuse me, I mean, we've said it a few times throughout the interview, but well, first off, we want to shout you out. Again, we really appreciate what you're doing, and being able to share these stories, because the questions you ask, even, I feel like I learned something about, Killa and Don, myself, so again, I first off want to shout you out, for having us. And secondly, I want to just say to every listener, every fan, every supporter, however you support us, we appreciate you. Thank you for your patience. We promise we won't take this long again, but we really just want to, to say we really appreciate the support, the love. We try and strive to do our best, and again, we need to know when the cutoff point is, but just know that it's because we want to give you guys the best of us, so just again, appreciate all the love, support, and we can't wait for you to hear it.
Yeah, man.
All right, and I'll jump in next.
Go ahead.
I just want to echo Jacob and just say we appreciate you, bro. And I actually want to correct one thing you said early on, like to have the three of us. So actually, your idea, I just love the idea, and I was just like, yeah, let's do that because as much as we always want Killa to be interviewed and him to get the light because he's the artist, a lot of people don't talk to all three of us at once. Like that's a very rare thing. So I just thought it was a great idea because it's just different. A lot of people we just don't do this a lot. And like Mike said, we just learn a lot about each other. So that's dope. And shout out to the fans, man. Shout out to the fans. The people on Twitter who hit me up on a weekly, daily, hourly basis, just asking what a project is. Like it's fun to go back and forth and just have fun with y'all. And we don't take it for granted the fact that y'all want it so bad, it would be worth the wait, so just stay tuned, man. Just stay tuned. The clock is ticking, stay close to your phones all week. You never know what might happen. And we love y'all. We love y'all. We don't take anything for granted. So thank y'all for everything. And, let's show the wall. Let's show the wall what a virgin island could do. Let's show the wall what a virgin island could do.
Well said.
Yeah, man. I'm jumping there. Yeah, for sure. Like, I appreciate you having us, of course. You know what I mean? And as far as the supporters, as Dan say, as Jacob says, we appreciate you, we love you, we understand that you're frustrated at this point. We understand that, but let's believe, trust and believe we will not be disappointed with what we produce for you. You know what I'm saying? It's always the same thing until they hear what it is, and they be like, oh, okay, we understand now. It's the same thing, people. Vision build kingdom. My most personal work to date, I leave it all out on the table. All my feelings, all my thoughts, popular and unpopular. I just looking forward to you guys hearing it. And looking forward to a lot more to come as well.
Sounds good. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to be on the podcast. As you guys can already tell by now, me myself, I'm a big fan, and I looking forward to the album for sure. And I know all the rest of the fans waiting on it. We can't wait for it to come out. To be honest, I think you can do some numbers in that first week for sure, definitely. But
I appreciate it, man. Hopefully, we gonna span a week number one for sure. Number 1 to 20.
well, I wouldn't doubt it. Let me put it out in the universe now. When the album drop, 1 through 20
Exactly.
on the iTunes list, you can just see nothing but Vision Builds Kingdoms. You hear it here first on the number one podcast in the BVI.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I like that.
Appreciate that. We like that energy.
Definitely.
for sure. Give thanks again, guys.